my talk, What I Wish I Knew Then, advice and tips I'd give to my younger self. So have you ever thought to yourself, if only I knew then what I know now, or maybe you thought, if I could go back and do it all over again. That was the inspiration for this talk. This talk is about the things that I realized in my life and in my career that I wish I would have known sooner, that I either learned the hard way or someone told me about them later rather than sooner. The first piece of advice I'll give is to learn to say no. Recognize your limitations. Saying no is as important to your success as it is to your sanity. It's difficult to say no, especially if you're a people pleaser or if the person asking has authority over you. It's important to recognize when you're saying no because that's the appropriate response versus when you're saying no simply to avoid being pushed outside of your comfort zone. That's why it's equally important, if not more, to learn when to say yes. If you're always saying yes to everything, all of your resources and your energy will be all used up and you'll have nothing left for yourself. However, saying yes to the right things can take you further in your life and in your career than you could imagine possible. Make sure that you don't let fear keep you from yes. I read a book called Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, which you're probably familiar with. And in that book, she says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I found this to be so incredibly profound, so much so that I actually wrote this on my bedroom mirror. And every time I'm asked to do something or I'm presented with an opportunity that I think, oh, I should say no because I'm afraid of this or that, I ask myself, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And every single time the answer has been immediately clear, and the answer has always been yes. And sometimes you just have to say yes and figure it out afterwards, and that's okay too. Especially when it comes to starting something new, when you don't feel like maybe you're capable enough, or maybe you just don't even know where to begin. If we all waited until we had it all figured out, we'd still be living in caves right now. So just get in there, start doing something, and I promise you, you'll figure it out as you go. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want or need. I am a firm believer that you don't get anything unless you ask for it. People can't read your mind. 9 times out of 10, you'll be no worse off asking for what you want or need versus if you hadn't asked at all. And you have a far, far greater chance of actually getting what you want if you just muster up the courage to ask. Allow yourself to be recognized. Women more often than men tend to downplay their achievements by saying things like, oh, it was just luck, or my colleague did most of the work, I just helped, even if that statement wasn't necessarily true. In a 2013 study conducted at Montana State University, researchers sampled nearly 80 undergraduate students and confirmed women have no problem promoting other people. But when it comes to talking about their own accomplishments, they either greatly downplay them or they don't even mention them at all. Past studies have shown that modesty norms do not affect men the same way that they affect women. Where women are perceived to be bragging when they talk about their accomplishments, men are perceived to be confident and capable. I want you to know that you deserve to be recognized. So allow it to happen and graciously accept it. If you're always downplaying your accomplishments, chances are you're not going to stand out at your next review for promotions or for pay raises. Do you ever feel like this? Have you ever felt like, I'm just trying to fly under the radar hoping that nobody finds me out and realizes I don't belong here? Or maybe the top half of this diagram more accurately describes the feeling. If you relate to either one of these images, chances are that you might suffer from what's called imposter syndrome, and I want you to know it's a real thing, and you are not alone. In fact, it's actually pretty common. Dr. Valarie Young, an expert in imposter syndrome, says that the thing about those that suffer from it is that they have unsustainably high expectations for everything they do. The thinking here goes that if I don't know everything, then I don't know anything. And if my work isn't absolutely perfect, then it is woefully deficient. Unsustainably high expectations. If my work isn't perfect, it's deficient. This sounds a lot like perfectionism. Now, perfectionism and imposter syndrome aren't the same thing, but you can see the similarities and see how they easily go hand in hand. And perfectionism can be your best friend because it causes you to do more than just the minimum, to take immense pride in your work, and to always strive to improve. However, at the same time, it's your worst enemy because it causes you to be harder on yourself and more critical of your work than you need to be. And in fact, it might even prevent you from doing things in life that you want to be doing just because you're afraid you might not be excellent at them. Perfectionism doesn't always have to be a bad thing, as long as you don't let it control you. Avoid the trap by setting clear goals and guidelines for the task, and once you're able to check off each one of those boxes, then move on. Stop obsessing. Not everything in life has to be perfect, and never, ever let your perfectionism stop you from doing the things you want to do because you're afraid you won't be great at them. That goes back to what I said earlier about learning when to say yes. And whether your self-doubt comes from imposter syndrome or perfectionism, or maybe it comes from somewhere else entirely, the takeaway message here is that you do not need to know everything to be smart, to be qualified, to be worthy. I recommend that you find yourself a good mentor or a study group. It is incredibly motivating and uplifting to be around like-minded, encouraging individuals. If you don't find yourself fortunate enough to find someone that you can call a mentor right away, don't give up, get involved. Attend local meetups, go to conferences, go to hackathons, or join a study group. And when you go to these events, go with the intention of actually meeting new people. Sure, you want to learn new skills and have fun, but make sure you're pushing yourself to meet new people. Your developer community is bigger and more active than you might realize. You just need to get out there and start connecting. And know your worth and believe in it. And when I say know your worth, I mean two things. Clearly, I'm talking about your inner worth. I've been talking about it for the last 12 slides. But I'm also talking about your monetary worth, because let's face it, most of us don't work for free. What I wish I would have learned far earlier in my career was to do my homework before negotiating a job offer. And in fact, you should be doing your homework before you even step into that interview room. Make sure you know what fair market value for your position is, including other compensation you may need to consider. And it doesn't hurt to brush up on those negotiating skills. A couple of really great references that I recommend is The Art of Negotiating the Best Deal, which is a great courses series, along with Getting to Yes, a book that has been in circulation for nearly 30 years and is an absolute classic. And it's an ongoing effort. The struggle is real, people. You're not going to just one day wake up and find that you've magically transformed into this perfect, always confident human being. It takes effort, it takes time, and it's going to be a lifelong thing. What I do know, though, is that awareness is key, and the more effort you put into something, the more effortless it becomes. We all have our good days, and we all have our bad days, and some days are certainly easier than others, but do not let those bad days shake your confidence. Relentlessly pursue your dreams. Don't hesitate, don't stop, Just put one foot in front of the other, and the next thing you know, there you are, right where you wanted to be. Thank you.